Hi everyone. Today I'm so excited to share with you this recipe for the ultimate gluten-free spicy cheese bread. If you like cheese and you like bread, and let's be honest, you probably wouldn't be following me if you didn't like bread at least. This is the ultimate in cheesy bready goodness. It's got loads of pockets of melted cheese in it, and it has crushed red pepper, and it's made with my brioche style dough. It is heaven, you guys, and let's get started. So in this bowl, in my mixer bowl, I have the usual suspects: Kim's gluten-free bread flour blend, which you'll find the link to the recipe in the description box below, along with some sugar, psyllium husks, yeast, and salt. And we're just going to give that a whisk, but first we're going to add in some crushed red pepper. The original recipe for this that I found online from another blogger, it of course wasn't gluten-free. It only called for 1.5 teaspoons of crushed red pepper flakes in the dough, and when I first made it, I could barely taste the spice, so I bumped it up to a tablespoon, and it was way too spicy for me to eat, so watch out for that spice. So I'm adding to this milk, of course, and either melted, you can use either melted or very, very soft butter. And then we have one egg, one whole egg, and 6 egg yolks. And of course, as always, you're going to find the recipe link in the description box below the video. So no need to worry about amounts here. So get this on your mixer and get it going, and let it go for a good 5 minutes on medium to medium high speed. It is a pretty sticky dough, so there are a few tips later on in the video for how to work with it. So once it is fully mixed, scrape down the sides, cover it, and let it proof for a good 1 to 2 hours, and then you have to refrigerate it overnight. If you don't refrigerate it, it's not going to be able to be worked with. It's going to be a pile of sticky, gooey mess. So what I'm going to do right now, this is cold right out of the fridge, and I want to show you that I'm going to knead it here, but it's going to be a little bit sticky, and I'll knead in some extra flour. But I also am going to, after I knead it, I'm going to put it in the freezer for about 10 to 15 minutes. I learned this technique for doing this when I was making my croissant dough, because it was a little on the sticky side and I really wanted a nice stiff dough. So this is out of the freezer now, 10 to 15 minutes, like I said. And I apologize, I'm at my mom and dad's house right at the moment making this, and I didn't have my rolling pin, and my mom didn't have one, so I had to improvise, and I basically just patted the dough out with my hands, which worked just fine, by the way. So you just want to get it to where it's about maybe 1/4 of an inch thick or so. And once you've got that, brush off any excess flour and then add your cheese. And this is a lot of cheese. This is cubes of provolone cheese and Monterey Jack. You can really use whatever kind of cheese you want here, as long as it's semi-hard or hard cheeses. I don't think like a soft mozzarella, fresh mozzarella would work, but a regular, just the normal brick of mozzarella would probably work just fine. And then we're going to roll it up almost like a cinnamon roll. And some of the cheese might poke out, which is just fine, because you can just take your fingers over it and kind of squish it back together. We're not going for a beauty contest here on this. It's more about the texture of the bread and just how good it tastes, because it is unbelievable, you guys. So once you've got it rolled up, start pinching it. What I did is I started just going down the log and kind of pinching it together, squeezing it a little bit, and elongating it in the process. So I was kind of pulling it just a little bit, squeezing it, and elongating it, if that makes any sense. Just watch what I'm doing and you'll get it. And then after it's fairly long, there's no like rules on how long it needs to be, but long enough to coil around itself. And inevitably, some cheese is going to start poking out, which is just fine. There's just nothing you can do about it, so just accept it and move on. And once you've got it elongated, start rolling it up like a coil. So we just start coiling it around itself. And when I get to the end, I'm just kind of pressing that, maybe just press it. You don't need to put it underneath or tuck it underneath or anything. So now we're going to put this in a sprayed, greased 8-inch round cake pan. You can use, I used a parchment circle in here because I didn't want it to stick with all that cheese. And then we're going to cover it and we're going to let it rise until nearly doubled in size. And that means that it's going to like crest over the rim of the cake pan by a good 2 inches almost. So put this in a nice warm place, cover it loosely with plastic wrap. I'm tucking it in like I do with all my other stuff because I don't want that plastic to inhibit the growth of the bread. It's not the same as regular wheat style bread. So once it's proofed, see it's a good, about 2 inches over the top. Take an egg wash, which is just, my egg wash is always 1 egg mixed with about a tablespoon or so of water and just a pinch of salt. And when you mix all that together, the salt kind of helps to denature the egg whites so they're not so globby. And then if you want, you don't have to do this, but I sprinkled with a little more crushed red pepper. Not a whole lot. Like I said, the spiciness of the one loaf I made was just too much. I couldn't even handle it. It was just too spicy for me. But you might like extra spice. I'm kind of middle of the road, so if you like a lot, then add a lot. So then we put this in a 350-degree Fahrenheit oven. Make sure you put it on a sheet tray or a piece of foil because it's going to drip oozy cheese everywhere. And here you go. This is the ultimate in cheesy, spicy, bready goodness. It is soft, just like my regular brioche loaf. It is filled with the cheese melts and it gets these like pockets. And oh my gosh, the spice level is just perfect. I absolutely love this bread. I like to cut it like I did here. You can also tear it apart and have a tear and share moment. Enjoy.